Irish guy, and everybody loves a good old-fashioned roast. Well, except vegetarians. They look at a barbecue the same way I look at Susan Boyle drinking out of a toilet. Well, lads, today I'm going to try and roast every single football club in the top 4 divisions of English football. Just a warning, some of these are going to be absolutely terrible. Right, let's go. Arsenal. Starting off with Arsenal. The last time the Gunners won a Premier League title was 1 week after Ross tracked down Rachel at the airport. Yeah, it's been so long since they lifted that trophy. David Schwimmer now looks like one of the unironed puppets that belong on the Muppet Show. MK Dons. MK Dons remind me of my dad, in the fact that back in 2004, they changed their name and moved 50 miles down the road. All MK Dons needed to do was just leave a post-it note on the fridge explaining that they're just popping out for milk. Yeah. I've had a bowl of Frosties preserved in the cupboard since I was 8. Blackburn Rovers. Blackburn Rovers are like Pixar in that they peaked in 1995, but honestly, they had one of the deadliest strike partnerships in the world, with Shearer earning a world record transfer fee, and well, Sutton was never again more relevant until that fat goalie decided to eat a pie on the bench. Bolton Wanderers. What has happened to Bolton Wanderers? It only feels like 5 minutes ago, we knew them as that tough Premier League unit who made the Reebok a fortress. Yeah, that stadium has since been turned into the Macron Stadium, and then it was the University of Bolton Stadium, which sounds about as intimidating as a picnic with Fuzzy Bear, but it's since been turned into the Tough Sheet Community Stadium, which sounds like a detention center for local delinquents who like chucking eggs at nursing homes. But according to Wikipedia,
in European competitions, the stadium is known as Bolton Stadium due to advertising rules.
Sorry, in European competition. Oh, good to know. That's a bit like saying that I am to be known as Captain Whiskers every time I'm seen chilling on the moon. Hull City. Look, Galatasaray is one of the most intimidating grounds in Europe. There's nothing quite like being in that cauldron of chaos and seeing that sign, welcome to hell. The only thing scarier, of course, would be a sign saying welcome to Hull. Brighton. Lads, remember when Potter went to Brighton up Ginny Weasley's day by flashing his knob in the Hogwarts Express? Sorry, I may have written my own fan fiction. But also, yeah, the day when Graham was with the Gulls, they were so hipster, you would not have been shocked to see them serve Hungarian vegan seafood in the stadium at half-time. By the way, lads, if you're new here, hit that subscribe button if you're enjoying the video, trying to get to 200k. That would be an absolute dream. Bunch of legends. Back into the video. Wolves. Yes, on paper, this is a football club which sounds like they would be nightmare landlords for pigs, but I respect the ambition of Wolves, embarking on a star-studded Portuguese revolution to then just settling for grimy old Gary O'Neill. It's a bit of mixed signals. It's a bit like inviting Luis Figo to entertain at your birthday party, but instead, you wind up with your uncle on stage with a creepy ventriloquist doll. Peterborough. Pretty simple. Peterborough remind me of the Black Eyed Peas, as they've just spent the last 10 years repeatedly begging Fergie to come back. Nottingham Forest. I feel bad for everybody who takes the manager's job at Nottingham Forest after the monstrous achievements of Clough, because no matter how hard they try, the element in the room is that the club will always be in the shadow of Brian. But what do they expect? They staked the kickoff and ran. Oh, Booby's not gonna like that one. Wrexham. We've seen current Prime Minister Rishi Sunak recently attending a Southampton game, but I mean, forget about the Hollywood takeover. Whenever I hear this club's name, I just imagine if David Cameron had played the villain in Toy Story. I mean, forget about Sid. He'd be the one who finally Wrexham. What? Norwich City. So Norwich City, a medium-sized club from Norfolk, who for years now have been bankrolled by someone made famous for cooking sausages, which is quite fitting for the fans, considering what she cooks also winds up in bread. Sorry, Norwich. Okay, that's a joke. Okay, that is a joke, Norwich fans. I know what you have with your sister is strictly platonic. Bournemouth. Look at the recent history of managerial appointments at Bournemouth. The Cherries always appoint incredibly young managers, barely out of their 20s. Bournemouth are like the DiCaprio football clubs, which is ironic because he's probably also responsible for popping lots of cherries. That was way too dark. Stoke City. Stoke were always like that ugly, unfashionable brute in the Premier League. If they were a dog, I would compare them to an XL bully. Hideous to look at, but if you faced them on a bad day, you could have had your head eaten like a mini sausage roll, as Brendan Rodgers found out 8 years ago. Everton. With all the never-ending talk of Everton's impending stadium change that's still yet to materialize, the Toffees just remind me of that grown man friend of yours who keeps meaning to move out but never does. Yeah, give it 10 years and he's still squatting in the box room and with his mummy's frozen breast milk in the fridge. Burnley are a club who, to be fair, have tried in vain to move away from their reputation of being an ugly brutish cow in order to have this fancy new makeover where they now want to play like Brazil. I rate it, But it's weird. Every time I watch Burnley now trying to pass the ball, it's a bit like seeing King Kong slapped with makeup and lip gloss. It's more scary than anything. Notts County, as the oldest professional football club in the world, Notts County deserve more respect, and it was their old shirt design which actually inspired the famous Juventus strip. I'm not sure why the Italians adopted that strip, but I don't know. Clearly they had piqued the interest of the old lady. A bit like Rooney when he handed her a bag of cash and an NDA. Sorry, that was a joke. That was a joke. Relax. Fleetwood Town. Fleetwood are a club who've recently gone through the likes of Joey Barton, Scott Brown, and now Charlie Adam as manager. So clearly each manager is supposed to look scarier than the last. Within 5 years, there's probably going to be some poor sucker unveiled wearing a Michael Myers mask. Crew Alexandra. This is a club whose name is terrifying to me, as they remind me of my cruel Alexandra. She used to shove puppies in the microwave to make her point. No, that's a complete lie. I was not with someone called Sandra. Who do you think I am, Harry Redknapp? No, this is a lowly League 2 club who currently play in a ground called the Mornflake Stadium. Sorry, Mornflake. That just sounds like a cheap knockoff brand of cereal you might find in an Aldi shelf. Each box being sold for 49 pence because there's a chance you might find mouse droppings in every 4th box. Leighton Orient. I've always thought that Leighton Orient just sounds like a train. It doesn't really sound like a football club. It sounds like a place where Hercule Poirot should be searching for clues. This is a club who play at Brisbane Road, which also used to be known as Osborne Road, which must be incredibly confusing for the Aussie fan base and the other Aussie fan base. Get it? Two different Aussie fan bases. Awful. Is this thing on? Port Vale. Right now, Port Vale are linked with a mega celebrity takeover, with dart star Phil Taylor and washed up pop star Robbie Williams tipped to take over. If that happens, it'll probably be mandatory for each player to, before training, eat a pie, throw a 180, and beat to death a pinata that suspiciously looks like Gary Barlow. Accrington Stanley. Just when I thought we were over the nauseating Christmas season, I just discovered that Accrington Stanley's ground is called the Wham Stadium. Next, you'll be telling me that with every concourse hot dog, you got a signed photo of George Michael in the nude. QPR. Forget QPR. Right now that club needs some CPR as they look like they're going to be sucked into League 1. To me, the Hoops are the ultimate tragedy club. 10 years ago, they were sold an ambitious dream, given a bunch of famous mega stars, and are now officially in the mud. It's a bit like seeing a homeless man eating his own dog's poo under a bridge who tells you that he used to hang out with Justin Bieber and Tom Cruise. So why now is he having to use dead rats for gloves and wear a yogurt pot as a hat? Poor QPR. Reading. Yes, on paper, this is a club which might also be confused with Floyd Mayweather's biggest fear, but no, this is a respectful sleeping giant in East London, who right now, in a desperate bid to escape relegation to League 2, are relying on Sam Smith to save the day. Piers Morgan must be very confused. Bradford City. It seems crazy to me that Bradford began this season being coached by a former Manchester United, Chelsea and Barcelona goal machine, someone who was Manchester City manager just 7 years before Guardiola came to town. That little old Bradford were in a position to sack a man of Mark Hughes' clout and fame. And to be like seeing some fat female nerd at Pizza Hut dumping Orlando Bloom by text? Come on, Legolas, what happened? Brentford. I worry for Brentford this summer because it's obvious to see that the Bees rely on Tony even more so than the goddamn Frosty's brand. Yeah, I mean, try and stick Michael the Meerkat on the front of that cereal box and suddenly there'll be riots outside the Kellogg's HQ. West Ham. This season, West Ham fans have chosen to sing
Champions of Europe, you'll never sing that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a cool song, but it's a bit like me choosing to stick on my CV that I'm a Wimbledon champion because I once beat my nephew at squash. Stevenage. There's nothing that screams, take me seriously as a football club, than slapping Burger King on the front of your shirts. I mean, don't get it wrong. If any of the Stevenage squad are even seen snacking on a double whopper before a match, the chairman probably chuck a brick at their car. Chelsea's transfer model of trapping unproven, raw talent into 8-year contracts. That sounds terrifyingly risky beyond belief. It's a bit like Todd Bowley is trying to turn Chelsea into Married at First Sight. Honestly, if that bloke lives his life in the same reckless, impulsive way he operates a football club, then he's probably paying alimony to about 14 different ex-wives who he just met at Pizza Hut. Portsmouth. I sometimes wake up at night and wonder, what does Harry Redknapp regret more? Accidentally financially crippling Portsmouth in 2008? Or digesting the donkey knob on live TV? I'm just kidding, I never watched I'm a Celeb. Would rather donate my eyeballs to a local orphanage. And I also don't know if he was responsible for Portsmouth going bust. Probably not. But, he did spend a lot of money. Shrewsbury. Eden Hazard thinks you're a strawberry. Next, Northampton Town. You might not know much about Northampton Town. That would be everybody then. But surely an historical claim to fame was that 20 years ago, Diego Forlan missed a penalty against their club. World superstar Diego Forlan. failing to score from 12 yards. Against the goalie who probably stunk of cheese. Honestly, so little has actually occurred in Northampton that they should probably stick up a statue of an embarrassed forward outside the ground. Allah, to be fair, considering the state of football statues these days, it would probably just look like Ellen DeGeneres, realizing she's left on the stove. Liverpool are a great club filled with proud traditions, but ever since the FSG takeover and the greater interest across the pond, then I'd imagine some of the American tourist fans probably are very confused in press conferences when they hear the away manager speak, because back where they come from, silencing the cop usually involves John Gotti and a bribe. Wigan Athletic. Wigan boss Sean Maloney confuses me. Purely because he played under Roberto Martinez 10 years ago, he was being drafted into Belgium's coaching staff. I maintain that staff room must have looked a baffling place. Both Maloney and Graham Jones tucking into a cheese sandwich, whilst Thierry Henry stares at them as if they're homeless aliens from Mars. Instead, Maloney's just spending his daily sessions screaming at Jamie Carragher's son so much, he should probably bring a napkin with him for parent-teacher nights. Cheltenham Town. It is a bit shame that for a proud, esteemed footballing club like this, still the first thing anyone thinks of when they hear Cheltenham is just a bunch of posh toffs in top hats, drinking watered down gin, screaming at Pegasus to win the first prize. Barnsley are a club I can relate to, as they were just kicked out of the FA Cup for fielding an illegible player. I know what you're going through. I was once kicked out of my mum's house for using the curtains to wipe my bum. What do you mean it's a false equivalency? Crawley Town. I don't want to pick on Crawley Town too much, considering Harry Maguire's brother Lawrence is their star centre back, and I'm afraid their mum might turn up on my doorstep with an axe. But I think Crawley forfeited all self-respect when they gave Mark Wright off Towie his debut at 35. Last Christmas, they had half the sidemen training with them. Give it 5 years and they'll probably have True Geordie between the sticks. Walsall. Considering Walsall have mostly been underachieving average muck for the best part of 10 years, a club have made virtually zero progress. It's quite unfortunate that the chairman's surname is literally boycott. He's almost inadvertently showing the fans what to do. I mean, it's a bit like turning up to a Tinder date with a woman whose surname is shut up and leave me alone. Swansea. God, that's an attractive sheep. Oh, sorry, yeah, about Swansea then. Yeah, they've always been a likable, ball-playing team who like to get the ball on the deck. Well, they peaked 10 years ago. Those fans are so longing for the players of the past that the supporters are probably trying to influence the Me Too movement online. That is actually the worst one. That's so bad. Mansfield Town currently have Nigel Clough in charge, but isn't he not just a pale imitation of his dad? I mean, if I were a football player, I would personally get more inspired listening to one of Brian's old voicemails on his phone than I would his weedy failed son. Ipswich Town is surely the surprise package of the 23-24 season, and it would be great to see them back in the Premier League, but if that means that we would see Ed Sheeran repeatedly forced down our throats a match of the day, then I think I might actually have to scoop up my eyes with a spoon. Sutton United. You know a club is small time when the first image that springs to mind is a 30-stone goalie chowing down on a greasy steak pick on the bench. Leeds United are an absolute fire. 8 wins in a row, 7 clean sheets. It is a shame though, because after his Norwich exploits, we all know that Daniel Farke finds the championship a breeze. But whenever he hears the match of the day theme tune, he suddenly melts like an Easter egg in June. Southampton. I like Southampton as a club, and for a while there, they did well to recover their dignity when they stopped letting Jurgen Klopp repeatedly use them as a McDonald's drive-thru. But it is still a struggle to take them seriously when I have seen them lose 9-0 twice. Now, it's a bit like walking in on your dad watching the Frozen films in the nude. Once you could awkwardly forgive, but the second time it happens, that's when you start filling out adult adoption forms. Tottenham. For years, Tottenham always reminded me of a blind old man struggling to stand on the bus, in that their greatest fear was being robbed of their cane. But to be fair, they are doing just fine without. West Brom remind me of a crippled kangaroo. They used to be a boing boing club that kept springing up and down between the top 2 divisions, but now they just lost their spring and are a bit like that sad punctured balloon that's now limply rotting on the kitchen floor. Barrow. I don't know much about Barrow, but I do know that they play in a ground called the So Legal Stadium. I guess that explains why they never tried to sign Adam Johnson. Charlton are an esteemed ex-Premier League club, but I'm not sure why. If I were to turn up to the Valley, I'm half expecting to meet fans who look like they were pulled off the set of Breaking Bad with more pimples on their face and teeth in their mouth. I'm half expecting to walk into the stadium toilets and find Robert Downey Jr. doing shots of Kate Moss in the corner. Don't blame me. You're the one who called yourself the addicts. Sunderland fans have probably developed such a phobia of Netflix that even now, they probably can't even see the logo without getting sick on their front. Bristol City's squad looks very British monarchy, because in their roster, they've got 2 knights and a king. When organising their summer preseason friendlies, all they need to do is invite nonce to town and it'll look like Sunday lunch at Windsor. Again, that's a joke. A massive joke. A joke. A joke. Watford. Watford are the Championship's mafia club who like to sack managers for the slightest infraction, like accidentally sneezing near one of the puzzle's bowls of Rice Krispies. If these owners are this ruthless in every walk of life, I'd imagine their divorce lawyers are millionaires, and they've drowned at least 4 of their kids for eating dinner with their elbow on the table. If I was working in the Watford canteen kitchens, I'd be too scared to look for milk in the fridge for fear of seeing somebody's head. Coventry. Coventry are a friendly, familiar staple of the Football League, right? But because of who their owner is, I don't think of their proud history and time in the Premier League. Instead, I just can't get YouTube boxing out of my head because KSI is Doug King Jake Paul. Get it? Because the chairman's name is Doug King. That is awful. That is actually awful. Cardiff City. Cardiff City fans are an interesting bunch, as they're probably the only blokes in Wales who don't want to tan. Nah, but seriously, the crazy owner is still there. Middlesbrough. Middlesbrough are that club who try and worm their way into having a Northeast derby, but really, I'd imagine Sunderland and Newcastle fans care about Middlesbrough the same way I care about Tugdas bowel movements. Crystal Palace. So in the end, Crystal Palace fans did get sick of having a manager who was so old, you probably get anecdotes about the time he went bowling with Marilyn Monroe, but bringing in ex-Frankfurt boss Oliver Glasner with his Route 1 tactics, to me, that's about as exciting as drinking Calpol for lunch. Fulham. Fulham wanted a statue of Michael Jackson inside the ground. Was this supposed to cause intimidation for the away fans? Rocking up at the stadium to watch the King of Pop midway through Billie Jean? The only time MJ would scare me is if I was trick-or-treating outside his house. Preston. Considering Preston were actually the first team to go an entire English season unbeaten, the club probably have a proud ego, but that was the 1800s. Fast forward to 2024, and in reality, looking at this season, their form guide, they're now about as invincible as a snowman in Nepal. Salford City. Salford City began as a passion project for the class of '92, but with David Beckham and Phil Neville in America, Gary Neville juggling 600 different jobs, Paul Scholes moaning on the telly, and Ryan Giggs praying to his lawyers, is poor old Nicky Butt the only bloke who still cares about this club. It's like starting a fantasy football league with your mates. Yeah, everyone's really passionate about it in August, but by March, you haven't logged in since Christmas, your captain's been out with a broken leg for a month, and overall, your team's more neglected than the Northern with the mumps. Swindon Town. Oh, you Swindon lot are little slugs. They're little slugs with no personality and just jealous how we're better now. Okay, I'm sorry, that's an Office reference, okay? I couldn't resist that. But no, seriously, Swindon. I just remember them being sponsored by an actual magazine. Thank heavens it wasn't Playboy, or you'd have had old ladies having heart attacks when their grandson unwraps his kid on Christmas Day. Exeter City. Exeter City are managed by ex-Scottish centre-half Gary Caldwell, who spent 7 years at Newcastle without ever being given the honour of making his debut. So I'm convinced the only reason he's taking the Exeter gig is that he can finally tell his mum that he works every week at St James's Park, which is a little bit sad. Burton Albion. I would imagine most Americans who've never watched soccer before in their life but are absolute Hollywood film buffs tell them about Burton Albion, and they'd probably assume that Johnny Depp is on board and that the lunch ladies all look like Bellatrix Lestrange. Birmingham. After destroying their playoff bids when stupidly sacking Gary Rowett in 2016 and John Eustace in 2023, Birmingham City remind me of that one friend who like to sabotage their own happiness. Birmingham are like the type of person who, midway through a date, who would choose to pour salt in her Guinness. They're the type who, halfway through a trip to the zoo with their mum, they confess that they once did a poo in her sock. Harrogate Town. Harrogate Town have existed ever since 1905, which is madness considering I don't think they've ever popped up in a single conversation I've ever had in my life. But that's on me and my own ignorance. I'm sure that club is plenty famous. No, they've got less Twitter followers than the fat one of JLS. Doncaster Rovers. It's not a great look for a football club when their most famous celebrity fan is the wimpy bloke of One Direction, the guy who had Bon Lahore nearly crippled during a friendly 10 years ago. Stockport County. We need to put some respect on Stockport County's name. This is a club who've been outside the Football League since 2011, were promoted from the conference 18 months ago, and are now top of League 2, and recently went on a 12-game winning run. Can't help but feel that the canteen chef is feeding their players a breakfast that was endorsed by Lance Armstrong. Wycombe Wanderers. So, Wycombe Wanderers' record goal scorer is Adebayo Akinfenwa. Their captain is Joe Jacobson, and their top scorer this season is Luke Leahy. This is a club absolutely swimming in alliteration. This isn't even a roast. That's just a weak observation. Let's just say that I'm a bit suspicious about Wycombe. Wouldn't have been shocked if they just spent the 6 years just feeding Akinfenwa lost children for breakfast. Tranmere Rovers. Believe it or not, there was once outrage when 10 years ago, the guy who is now Tranmere boss was sacked and replaced by the current Chelsea manager. Pochettino was someone who probably still has Neymar and Messi on Snapchat, while Nigel Adkins, probably has not been asked for a selfie in nearly 9 years. Kind of makes you think, what was all the outrage about? Forest Green Rovers. Forest Green Rovers confused me. This is a progressive vegan club who, over the summer, became the first club to appoint a woman as an interim coach. Great! But does anyone else think it's weird that a vegan club then had Troy Deeney as boss? Someone who looks like a bona fide cannibal, who's eaten his own sister for lunch? Gillingham. When Manchester United won the treble in dramatic fashion back in 1999, their neighbours were also doing something similar. It was City scoring 2 in injury time of a League One playoff final to snatch promotion away from Gillingham. Considering what both clubs have gone on to do since, then it is a bit sad When a Man City fan bumps into a Gillingham fan now down the pub, it must be a bit like Beyonce awkwardly walking past the rest of Destiny's Child when they're now begging for lunch money outside of school. Rotherham. To me, this club has always sounded like a glib, surly complaint from someone who's being dragged by their wife to some hipster vegan barbecue. No, I don't want to stick Portuguese lettuce and flowers in my sandwich. No, I'd rather ham. Again, that's a terrible joke. Oxford United. On paper, Oxford United strike me as a classy, well-to-do, upper echelons football club, surely run by university-trained bookworms who still read Shakespeare by candlelight and they write late-night fan fiction about how they'd love to poison every poor person in the world. I'd imagine the Oxford fans are like the creepy blokes off Saltburn. Even their players sound posh. Like Simon Eastwood, Cameron Brannigan, and Stanley Mills. It seems like a place where everybody is so snooty and elegant. They say football is for the working class. Yeah, the Oxford Ultras probably spend every game carefully swilling a wine glass whilst reading an oak furniture catalogue. Cambridge United. Here are a list of people who've graduated from Cambridge University. Stephen Hawking, Charles Darwin, Stephen Fry, John Cleese, Sylvia Plath, Prince Charles Isaac Newton. So by comparison, how out of place do Cambridge United footballers look trying to give it the big un, acting famous in a town built on brains? Blackpool are in a decent spot right now, but I'd imagine those fans still have so much unresolved bitterness towards the Oyston family. They're probably like that obtuse bloke in therapy who keeps trying to justify why he was up until 4 a.m. the previous night, slashing the wheels of his ex-wife's car. Honestly, poor Blackpool fans. Just let go. Lincoln. I've always been a bit uneasy about Lincoln City's nickname being the Imps. They almost just feel like a Game of Thrones insult. Luton Town. With most people declaring that they have the worst stadium in the world, Luton Town are like that unashamed bloke who is the opposite of house proud. When he invites you over for lunch, you have to wade through toilet water, there's rats in the coffee, and you're suspicious of why there's a dead squirrel in the fridge. Poor old Luton. Nothing screams crowd intimidation more. Quite like having an away stand sponsored by a pizza. I wouldn't be shocked if they hadn't yet wiped last week's pepperoni stains off the seats. Millwall. I don't want to say anything mean about Millwall, as I'm too scared their fans will literally eat my head with a spoon. Plymouth Argyle. I have no problem with Plymouth Argyle, but I'd imagine they're not the most popular club in town when their celebrity fan is a bloke called Pie Face. Bristol Rovers. Considering that Bristol Rovers just spent 2 years being controlled by Joey Barton, I'd imagine that all talk of Barbie is still banned from the training ground. Sheffield Wednesday. Painted as the bad guys in the latest season of Sunderland Till I Die, I actually quite like this club, which is weird considering I've been predisposed to hating Wednesdays, because growing up, that was picture night at my uncle's basement. Grimsby Town. Grimsby Town win the award for having the ugliest name of any football club in the English pyramid. I don't know what it is about the word Grimsby, but whenever I hear it, I immediately just envisage a horse getting sick. Colchester. Colchester are a club whose fresh, new star centre back is Fiacre Kelleher, the older brother of the guy playing in net for Liverpool every week. He's probably so sick and jealous that at every Christmas meal, he must resist slipping dead mice into Queeving's tea. Man United. Manchester United seem to be embroiled in so many dramatic public squabbles. You'd swear they'd morphed into Hollyoaks. By now, they'd be forced to banish a so-called generational talent to Germany. English football has not treated Sancho so poorly since Peter Crouch almost yanked his hair off his scalp. Anyone remember that World Cup? It was Brent? No, not Mark Goldbridge's real name. No, Brent Sancho. Up the Soca Warriors! Derby County. This is a club who've made a habit of hiring monster names as manager. The former England manager, ex-Chelsea legend, England's record goalscorer, Brian Clough's son, and someone who used to sleep under Ancelotti's bed. Derby County are really trying to be so Hollywood. Huddersfield Town. Meet Huddersfield's new coach, André Breitenreiter, somebody who played for Hannoversche SC, Hannover 96, Hamburg, Hessen Kassel, Holstein Kiel, has managed Hovels, Hanover, Hoffenheim, Hovelstein, and now Huddersfield. This man is so creepily obsessed with the letter H. Not be surprised to find out he's got that letter tattooed on his armpit. Sheffield United. We all know about the inner city Sheffield rivalry. Honestly, the only time you're ever going to catch the Blades in the same room as Wednesday is if Edward Scissorhands was invited to have brunch with the Addams family. That was probably the geekiest reference ever. That might be the worst one in the list. Man City. I'm not sure how Man City fans are able to sleep comfortably at night because they're in such a perilous legal position. Watching their Premier League buddies all getting punished by the courts whilst they await their verdict. They're probably sitting at home crying into their pillows. Leicester City. It must be sad for Leicester City fans, knowing they've already seen their club's crowning achievement, never to be seen again. The Disney fairy tale moment has been and gone. So it's all just downhill from here. Must be a bit deflating. It's almost like the footballing gods have decided that they sing too much. Carlisle United. Carlisle are awful. Bottom of League One, having lost 7 games in a row. I almost don't want to pick on them. It feels a bit like spitting at a puppy in the eye. AFC Wimbledon. I feel sorry for Wimbledon and respect that they are a Phoenix club which has risen from the ashes. But the reality is that they'll forever be in the shadow of tennis. Aston Villa. Unai Emery looks like a vampire. Next, Morecambe. I don't know, it's Morecambe. Tyson Fury looks like he smells. Newport County. I got nothing. Newport County. What do I possibly say about Newport County? You fill in the blanks. I don't know. I'm done. I'm actually exhausted. I am done. Anyway, that's the end of the video. What do you think? Okay, how would you grade that roast out of 10? Between 0 and 10, let me know how bad did you think that attempt was. Let me know in the comments, alright? If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give a like, subscribe. As always, I'll talk to you in a while.